Welcome to the What's Your Ceiling podcast. We're your hosts, Monte, Wyatt, and Paul Scieszinski. Wherever you are in life, there is a higher ceiling. This podcast is how you become aware of it and how to take action to push through it. It's time to discover your ceiling. Welcome to the What's Your Ceiling podcast. I'm Monte Wyatt.
I'm Paul Scieszinski.
And we're here to talk about your health, family, and business and help you break through ceilings. Today we have a wonderful friend of mine, a great community leader, and a person that is an entrepreneur, a restaurateur. He owns multiple restaurants and different things, but he's very much into serving the public, and he's very much into serving his customer and making sure that the things do right. So we have with us today Scott Carlson. Love to have you part of our show. Appreciate you being here.
Glad to be here. It's been a lot of fun.
Hey, before we jump into our conversation, Paul's going to give us a little update on an event that we have coming up.
Yeah, Monte, we have a great event coming up May 5th. We're going to be at the Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting in Omaha, Nebraska. We're going to be doing interviews at the hotel that we're staying at. We'll make an announcement, also maybe a gathering place around the corner at a restaurant bar that you might want to join us. We'll announce that. But always remember, when you listen to us, if you're interested and you like following this, we've been getting some great comments. If you just right below here, you can subscribe and get more stuff that we're going to be producing. And if you have somebody out there that you think would be a great achiever, that's achieved certain levels, that you think would be a great person for us to interview, please email us at wycmediapod@gmail.com, wycmediapod.com. So give us your comments. We're always looking to improve ourselves and break through different ceilings. We're trying to evolve.
All right. That's what we're here to do, is break through our ceiling. And we call our listener the achiever. And the achiever is somebody who is going after that next level. There's always a new ceiling. There's always something to break through. So we've got a theme today. Our theme today is success by serving. And one of the things that Scott's really passionate about is serving others. So, Paul, when you hear the phrase success by serving, what comes to mind for you?
Oh, I think it's a great way to grow a company. And I think you find most successful people love to serve people. And when you're helping people, you're serving people. And I think that's a big part of most successful people. If you ever talk to them, they'll usually love to serve people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Scott, how about you? When you think of success by serving, how does that make you feel? How does that inspire you?
You know, I think that's how I was brought up, right? I'll give the credit to my mother and my father, right? But my mother for sure. You know, she brought us up to have a good moral compass and to help the neighbors, right? And help the people around us. Mm-hmm. And she almost always did it through food and wine, right? And entertainment. And she was a singer, right? So she could sing. So it was just fun to see her do her thing with people. And it was always to make them feel better and put them at ease. Right, yeah. That was her whole goal, in life, was to just try to make an impression.
Yeah, you know what? When you're serving people, you feel better too. I think it's a gratitude type of an attitude.
I think it's like if you give gifts, and as you get, we just talked about getting older, you realize the gift of giving is better than the gift of receiving, right?
Yes.
And I think that's something that people miss out on. They don't see that if I serve others, well, they're not serving me. What am I going to get in return? Well, actually, you have to serve first.
You do.
When you serve first, you actually get more in return.
Right.
And many people miss that point.
Well, I think we all see it. Well, I shouldn't say. If you're lucky enough to have kids, or if you want to have kids, you see it through your children, right? Because I think as parents, you naturally give to your kids, and then you see them blossom, and you realize, wow, they've developed into great human beings. And if you can do that in a smaller scale, or within your business, or within the community, and you can give those little kind of pieces out here and there, the return is tenfold always.
Absolutely. Scott, you just told us a little bit ago you started in the restaurant business when you were 26.
Yep.
And you've been in the business for 26 years, so that's kind of cool.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about how you got into the restaurant world and why you were attracted to that.
And again, I just spoke about my mother, and she was a trained chef, and we moved 9 times in and out of the United States into Europe and back. And every time we moved, we spent 6 to 8 weeks house hunting. My mother did, and so we spent 6 to 8 weeks eating out, right? But once we actually developed, so if we were in Europe, she was taking us to the best Indian restaurants, the best French restaurants, the best British restaurants, if there were British restaurants at the time. They're better now, but at the time they weren't so great. But she would always take us to the best, right? She would try to find not the most expensive, but what she considered the best. And so, and then once we were home, then she started to cook again, and her food was tremendous, and she was always having people over. And she was a wine glass in one hand, Eve cigarette 120s in another, and a gown, hair done up, and entertaining people and just having people in her home. It was just kind of the way we were brought up, And so it was just a great way to kind of understand that people are people no matter where they're from. If you treat them nice and take care of them and offer them hospitality, they will become.
So your mother was your example.
She was. My father was a wine collector and drinker and a big presence, right? And so there was and he's 6'7", 300+ pounds. She was 5'1". Wow. Right. So to see them together was just kind of mesmerizing as a kid, right? So it was fun.
Well, you talk about serving first. You've learned that, but the different cultures in different countries you lived in, did you see quite a bit of different variance in the way people served or gave? Growing up, even from coast to coast, right, from California to the Midwest to the East Coast, there's just very different feel of how people were, and I can talk about that a little bit too. But in general, no, I mean they had their different culture, right? They had their different standard, but if you treat them well, I mean the response is almost always the same. They'll treat you well back, right? I mean, there was really never. That's what I always said. People were easy. I don't want to make that sound like they're not important, because that's not what I'm saying. It's just that if you treat them well, and if you actually are genuinely doing it, the response will be great. And the ones that don't really give you a good response are probably people you don't really want to be around anyways, right? Yeah. And so we all meet people that are more selfish or more self-centered. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that those are the people that my mom probably would have avoided. And so hence I do, right? So that's why I like community, things like that, right? Yeah. Well, you got into the restaurant business. You expanded. To expand in that many restaurants, as anybody knows, in my opinion, and we've talked earlier about a lot of businesses going in and out of business, but I've been in the restaurant business. I've been in the bar business, and I can tell you, to be able to run a restaurant bar is probably one of the most challenging businesses, in my opinion, you could be in.
It's certainly hard to manage. You got lots of different variables, right? You got people, environment, government, cities, states. I mean, you got so many things that are affecting you. Besides, if you're in a restaurant, I every time I see a plate go out, and this is a restaurant thing, and I'm not sure who thinks this way, but whenever I just sent out a great dish yesterday, and it was chicken marsala, right? Very traditional, basic, comforting dish. But it hit the table, and I'm looking at this thing going, damn, that is so good looking. And and I went and ordered one and got one. It was so tasty and good. And if you think about just that dish from wherever it came from, whatever chicken farm it came from, all the way down, the process to us, and then we actually take care of it, we prepare it. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong just in that dish alone. So when I see it hit the table and looking beautiful, I'm like, man, people don't realize how much work really goes into that plate, right? And they eat it in like 15 minutes, gone, right? They're happy and I'm happy, but
it's
so
like
for me,
fine art.
It is, and it's gone, right? It's gone, right? I mean, and if you do it over and over again, it's even harder, right? So because you want that dish to be very consistent. So man, it's tough, and it's I think it's undervalued on what people really think goes into a dish.
What made you get into the restaurant business? How did you decide what you're going to do for a career? I mean, where were you? How did you make that decision?
Again, I'll go back to my mother. We spent so much time in the hospitality industry by just moving, right? Yeah. And then when I was 16, my dad asked me, came in, I remember him saying, what do you want to do with your life? It's about that time. And I said, I want to be a long haul trucker, and I want to be in the restaurant business. And I think he was going to cry, right? I think he thought both those careers were terrible choices, right? But he was supportive, and we went out and looked at a Mack truck dealership. And I think a Mack truck at the time in 1986 was $120,000 worth of bed, or a 4-year degree was $40,000. And I thought, man, I think I can afford a $40,000, future more than a $120,000 future. So I went down the hotel restaurant management side more than the long haul trucker side, on that side. So.
Your dad knew what he was doing.
I'm sure he was pushing me one way. I'm not sure he wanted me to do either, really, but he pushed me at least in that direction.
But I will say those truckers, they do well.
They do great, and I think by the way, I still think I would have been happy doing it. So.
Right.
So I think it was great. But that's kind of how I got started. And so I was a busboy and a houseman. I dishwasher, right? I did all those jobs. I was a dishwasher in my favorite Asian restaurant in Illinois. I think I was 14 or 15. And I remember burning my hands on those little grills. Do you remember the little purple jelly, pink jelly that you put under the heat? You put your little saute thing. You can grill your meat on top, and those would come back. And there would mix an addition. I put my hand on one, and it felt like I was in this, the movie where I just sizzle. I can hear my hand sizzle as I touched it. I'm like, ugh! And then I remember the Asian chef, the owner, laughing. Right? Won't do that again. I'm like, no, I will not. Right? So you learn, but I mean, even those experiences were great. And I remember he invited me to his dinner table after I worked for him for about 3 weeks. And he basically said, yeah, you've earned the ability to eat with us. So I got to eat, his meal at the end of the night with his family and, things like that. So even that became these little successes in life, that you get invited to. Because every time I would finish he would give me some food, but I'd have to go eat or take it home. Right. And then eventually I think I earned enough respect where he'd let me, sit down and eat with him at the end of the night. So there's all these great things. And, and he didn't speak hardly any English, right? Yes. But made some great food.
And where was that at?
That was Chicago.
That was in Chicago.
Right, yeah. Old Peking was the name of the restaurant. Yeah.
Is that south side of Chicago?
My mother grew up in the south side. No, this was, when I say Chicago, this is actually Wheaton, Illinois, so the western suburbs. Yep. But no, Old Peking in the Ogden Mall. So it was a great first job. And then I was a busboy, and then I worked my way up to management. And I attended bar at Jimmy's American Cafe, here in West Des Moines.
For Jimmy.
For Jimmy, another great restaurateur. Crazy guy. Sometimes people have their own, thoughts about him, but
well, Jimmy owns Chop House.
801 Steak and Chop House, and
is he still active?
I haven't seen Jimmy in 15 years, so I believe he is still involved in his restaurants. We don't run the same circles.
So you go to college, you get your first gig in Chicago, and then where do you evolve from there?
It just really went. I wanted to go to school, so I went to school on the East Coast for hotel restaurant management. I graduated high school outside of Philadelphia, and then kind of halfway through that degree, I realized if I really want to own a business and be in the restaurant business, that I thought I needed to make a change and get my degree in business. And so we had lived in Wheaton, Illinois, and then we had moved to Philadelphia area, and my brother had graduated high school when we were in Wheaton, and so he had come to Drake, and I'd visited him a couple of times, and he actually, it was one of those clarity moments. That's another story, but I was going to go to Penn State, and he said, I think if you go to Penn State, you'll never graduate, because I think he was probably right. I like people, I like to have fun, and not that Drake's not fun, but different kind of fun. And so I ended up, long story short, driving to Drake. I applied 2 weeks before enrollment and got accepted. I still know my we're friends, actually, the lady that accepted me to Drake University, because she thought it was crazy that I wanted to come within 2 weeks of the school starting. But they got me in. I slept on the couch for a couple of weeks, because I had nowhere to live, and then, got my degree at Drake and never left Des Moines. I thought I'd move again. 9 times before I graduated high school, I thought I'm going to move 9 more times before I'm done with my career. I was okay with that, but never left Des Moines.
Wow. And then you raised, 3 kids?
3 great kids, yeah.
And they all graduated here?
My daughter just graduated in May from Drake, and my son is a sophomore at Iowa State, and then I have a junior in high school. So I'm on the other end of that life cycle with the kids, but they're all good kids.
That goes fast.
It does, too fast.
Now, so you get into. So when did you make that move? Decide to run your own shop?
I think that was always the goal. And actually, and again, I always call them happy accidents, right? Because I think I look at the glass very half full. But, when I was planning on going back to Philadelphia after I graduated from Drake University, worked for Jimmy. I was a West End bartender, at the West End Lounge by Drake, and just loved all that stuff. And I was going back, I'd gone back to Philadelphia for some internships to work, with some restaurateur hotel guys out there, and had a great experience. I'm blessed that they actually let me come to some of their meetings, trying to see them get their purchases done if they wanted to buy property in Pennsylvania. Some of these buildings were owned by 25 people because there's such a history of time and lineage in those. And so just trying to get any deal done was brutal. And then if you got a deal done, the restaurant scene was really competitive and really tiny spaces. If you've eaten in Philadelphia or New York, you're crammed, right, in these little spaces. Again, all fine. But I started to realize, I might be able to be a little more successful and be a little bit bigger fish in Des Moines. Mm-hmm. Than trying to go make my headway in Philadelphia or New York or Chicago. And so I just said, let's try here first. I met my wife. She was my girlfriend in college. She's from Des Moines. And I said, hey, I'll try here first, but if not, I'm going to probably have to move. And still here, so it worked out.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So sorry, that's probably a long response, but basically,
right.
Again, just kind of, I don't think we ever can pick our path, right? We just take the best road we can, and I think if you do it with the right attitude, you're gonna hit success no matter where you are.
Yeah.
So what was in getting started, what was the biggest challenge for you? You talk about the staffing, there's a lot of different things, there's understanding the financials. Getting started, what was the biggest challenge?
And I was in Kosovo a couple of years ago with some entrepreneurs trying to get their country to do more, right? Be more. But I think the biggest challenge is knowing you can. Right. I mean, it took me a little while. I always wanted to own my own restaurant, but saying it. I mean, how many people? We all say things. I want to own my own yacht. I want to own my own business. And actually getting to the fruition of getting it done is such a different thing. So I remember for a while I said, "Can I do this? Am I even worthy of doing this? And can I make it? Or am I going to put my family or my new wife in jeopardy?" Right. And so I remember there was that internal struggle of, can I do this? And I do remember, I can't give you a date or a time, but I do remember the kind of that epiphany of like, I can, right? And it was a total shift in how I thought, right? Like, I remember saying, yeah, I can do this. And I remember my brother saying to me later in life, going, Scott, you talked about owning your own restaurant and doing your own thing and developing a concept. And he goes, and you did it, right? He goes, as your brother, I didn't think you were going to be able to get it done. It's a tough business, right? But he was proud, right? He was proud. But I think he was just had that real moment of saying, hey, that's impressive, man. You got there, And that was the first restaurant. So,
that's cool.
That was just a nice experience. And once you break that barrier, right? Once you go over that and you realize there's a reward on the other side, not just financially, but just an independence and seeing other people get, happy about what you're doing and encouragement from your friends and making the community a little bit of a better place. You realize that, it's more than just the concept of what you thought success was. You just have a whole different view on the world once you kind of go over that barrier, right? Once you put the work in and you kind of put the stress in and you kind of had the heart attack moments going through and the oh shit, moments going through, you start to have that epiphany that, what, you can get this done. It's doable.
So you go out, how many years after college did you work your apprenticeship, I would call, before you decide I'm going to get my own keys and open the door?
Well, I started dishwashing when I was 14, right? And by the way, I did nothing else, right? I was always in the restaurant business from that point forward. And then I graduated from Drake in 93, and I worked for the Drake Diner, managed the Drake Diner. And I actually did the Drake Diner, the West End Diner, the North End Diner. The other ones are gone. Drake's still there. They actually had the commissary of food work at Principal Park at that time, so I got to do a little bit of work there. And Bill Knapp, believe it or not, was looking at doing a brewery on the river that kind of collapsed. It didn't collapse like in the river, but the idea collapsed, right? The city of Des Moines wasn't ready. The Corps of Engineers was not real happy about putting a restaurant in the river, on the river. And so those plans just kind of faded away. And I remember saying, hey, I like that idea, and I liked the research that was done. And so I started looking downtown for a spot for a brewery.
So Court Avenue was your first?
Court Avenue was number one. And I did it for a group out of Kansas City called Casey Hops. So I was their employee, but I was their kind of their homegrown employee, right? They're the local guy.
And how soon after Court did you add on your other locations?
So it was actually, I did Court for 3 years, left, by the way, for about 2 years, right? And then came back in 01. And so, and then never left again. But so I would say from 01, and then I did Americana's, 13 years old, Iowa Craft Beer Tent, which is a concession at the fair, but also lots of other events, 13 years old, and then Gilroy's is 7 years old.
Fantastic.
So a little time. And actually, when you ask about, maybe not regrets, I wish I would have grown probably faster. And again, not to grow bigger. That was not it. But we talked about developing people.
Yes.
There was people I probably could have developed that now would have their own restaurants that probably don't. Right. And I regret, I guess, not seeing that maybe opportunity in them where I could have said, hey, there could have been real growth for these folks that I'm working with.
I want to talk more about that because you mentioned to us earlier how you've developed people to run the other locations that you have.
Right.
Tell us that focus, and again, coming back to serving and that recognition that you just mentioned that, God, I wish I would have done that sooner. And what impact has that had?
Well, it's really what makes me run, right? So I was pretty fortunate. We had lots of managers and GMs and AGMs and chefs come through Court Avenue, right? Court Avenue has been kind of a staple in the community. And so they would work for a couple, 3 or 4 years, and then they would ask me to, hey, give my notice. I want to go work for another restaurant, or I want to work for a hotel, or I want to work for, there's a new restaurant opening. I want to be their chef. I want to be their manager. And I was like their biggest cheerleader, right? Sending them on their way. Take all of our information, take our employee manuals, use what you want, take what you want. Good luck. Thanks for all the hard work. I'm just so excited you're staying in the industry, because some people get burned out and get out and have a negative feeling towards. So I saw these people in my mind as pure success because they were staying. And then the penny dropped a little bit, saying, hey, I keep developing people and then sending them out or letting them go. And some of these people did their own thing. They weren't asking me, they were going, right, to do their own thing. But some I could see, like, hey, I think they just want to do their own thing more than really go work for somebody else. They just want a new concept or a new challenge. And so I started to look at people that had come through, and I said, hey, I think these people have the ability to do their own concept. And that's kind of how I grew. So I wasn't out of pure, like, I want more. It's just I saw more in people and let them grow. And I made them managing partners and had them have ownership and have them just kind of really be the face of that new place. And it was really a success almost from the get-go, right? I mean, even if we didn't make money, it was success because I could see them grow, right? I could see them do things and hire people and build a business and put people to work, right?
Scott, this is really, I see you got a passion for what you do, right. and I love that. But, I've been in different types of businesses, and one thing about there's a lot of moving parts in a restaurant. Looking at a restaurant bar, you're dealing with a cook, a waiter, a waitress. You're dealing with a manager, accounting. You're dealing with vendors, beer vendors, food vendors, multiple. And then you also entertainment. Then you got to deal with advertisement. I don't know. I'm probably missing a few things.
Food code,
legals,
and landlords, and
landlords,
right? Cities and entertainment districts, and music and sound variances, and ADA, and you name it. It's you get hit by all, and you do. And I get hit by not as much anymore because I think the world just works differently. 5 to 10 people on my door wanting to do business with me every week to sell me something, right?
Yeah. Now, so putting all those moving parts together, in my opinion, takes a leader and an engineer to be able to do that. So you've obviously been in the business long enough, you know what you're doing. You've built people that went out and started their own businesses. So could you just kind of walk us through how you put the glue together with all that? I mean, because the accounting is important, and we talked about that before.
Right.
And I think we find you got to know your numbers, and to achieve certain levels and going through different ceilings, and to scale, you got to master all these.
Right.
At a certain level to be able to bring somebody to do it. So give us a little bit of how you accomplish that. Now that you have 4 restaurants and bars, that's amazing that you could do something like that. So if you give us some insight, some young people out there that want to get into the restaurant business or older people.
Right. I'm fortunate enough to talk to like Iowa State, Drake University, DMAC, right? I get to talk to students. And one of the things I will say, and it talks a little bit about this, and I'll get to kind of the heart of your question, but I'll say I meet a lot of really, really smart people, and I meet a lot of really, really hardworking people. The real gem is smart, hardworking people. I think some really smart people think success is not working hard eventually. And then I think, people that work hard sometimes can't get through the other side, right? They just work harder to be, they think harder work is success, not smarter work, right? So, and then every once in a while you find that. So when I talk to the students, I always say, guys, find that balance. You can't, there's no magic pill, right? You have to work, right? If you happen to be bright, then use that and still work hard and you'll be successful. It doesn't mean life can't become more imbalanced for you at one time, but the issue is you can't do it without work, right? And I think I can see it in some students that they don't like that answer, right? I mean, they're like, well, but I go, then, if your goal is not to work, then that should be your goal, right? To maybe retire at 50 or 40, whatever you want to do, but then you still have to get there, right? You still have to put the work in to get to that point of whatever you think success is. But then I talk about my people, the people that I've been fortunate enough to work with. We always talk about financial acumen, right? They have to know how to read our books. I have a great accountant, right? So I'm not asking them to be an accountant, but I need them to understand when those books come to us every 4 weeks, exactly what they mean and where are we missing, because numbers just don't lie, right? And so we go through that, but most of all, minus all of those things, are they ethical? Are they positive? Can they build a team? Can they take somebody that they know and open a restaurant with them in the future so they have the next restaurant? And they just come to me and say, hey, Scott, would you like to invest? But I'm not putting my house up on, the bank note, or my property on the bank note. They're going to put theirs on, right? So I'm always looking for, can I see somebody out there that's, going to be able to take maybe what I've done and develop people and grow, through people. Can they take the next person, the next young person they see, or younger person, and say, hey, I think this person's got a great work ethic, probably a really good concept, a good idea of what they want to do, and I believe in it, and I believe in them, and then they grow them to the next level. That would be, for me, that would be my next ceiling, right? I haven't had it yet, right? But that's my next ceiling. One of my partners develops somebody to become their partner, and maybe not even an investor, but just right? Kind of the next thing, right?
Yeah, building.
I really want to point out to our achievers out there what just happened here, because I think that's powerful, is you've got to develop your team.
Right.
And you realize that was something that was missing, and so you changed your behavior so you could find new opportunities for your people.
Right.
And I think that's a huge thing, is you've got to develop your team, and if you don't, you are sending them off. And it's great that they stayed in the industry, but think of how many more restaurants you could have had, or more opportunities of great people that you would have.
And I don't know, right? That's kind of my because there were so many people that were developed that went out. And by the way, they're in the market doing their own thing. So it's not like they aren't successful, right? So they're out there.
Right.
But it's like, how many did I miss, right? How many did I miss that just didn't have that opportunity, right, to do it?
But you also said smart and hardworking.
Right.
And I think that's a critical thing, is we've got to look for people that are smart and hardworking, and you've got to be selective.
Right.
So tell us, you have an application, somebody fills it out, they want to work for you. Are you looking at education, background, experience, no experience, attitude? What are you looking for in an employee?
I will almost always look for personality and kind of, are they hospitable? When they come to see me, man or woman, are they put together, right? I'm not saying coat and tie, but just put together, right? Are they smiling? Are they making eye contact? Do they ask the right questions? I don't do much interviewing, or hardly any more, for like a server or a waiter or a bartender. But if somebody actually came to me and said, I want to work for Court Avenue Brewing Company, somewhere in their conversation, they were like 90% up the ladder, right? But I was amazed how many people I interviewed that never said that. I saw you needed a bartender, so that's why I'm here. And I'm like, okay, blah, blah. But they never said I want to work.
It's about the job.
I don't want to work for, I go, but if they say, I love Court Avenue, I've been here before, I want to work here, right? And I'm like, whoop, you're in, right? So I always tell people, as they, when you go do your research on whoever you interview. If it's going to be for John Deere, go do your John Deere and your research. So when you're in the interview process, you can tell them a little bit about themselves, right? And then say, hey, John Deere's a great company. I want to work for John Deere, right? Because blah, 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 right? Whatever that reason may be. And I think you're going to put yourself always at a high level. But I'm always looking for people, right? I can teach business acumen. I can teach inventory. I can teach all the hard skills, but I can't teach personality. I can't teach hospitality. I can't teach smiling. I can't teach eye contact. A gentleman, Paul Trostel's Greenbrier, he's passed away.
Yeah, I know Paul.
And he would say, what's frickin' free? But he didn't say frickin'. What's frickin' free? A smile and a handshake. And he goes, if my managers aren't giving those away every day, all day, then I don't know what I'm doing wrong. He goes, because it's just a free thing to give out. And everybody likes a smile and a handshake, right? So some of this stuff is just basic.
That's stuff you can't teach.
Right. And Paul's a tough dude, so don't get me wrong, right? There was a steely side to Paul, which I love. My wife loved that guy, but so, he had his own faults. But the issue is, he was a great hospitality guy, right? He understood what it takes to become a really great restaurant.
Yes. Yeah. It is, and we talk about it, Monte and I talked with our watchers, our achievers, and talk about how important people are. And you can't do it on your own island. Nope. You got to bring people to build and scale. It takes people, and it takes the right type of people, and that's really important. And you're a good example, obviously, a leader and a teacher, because you can be an entrepreneur and you can go out there and be pretty successful at a certain level, but you're going to hit your ceiling. But talking to you today, Scott, I think listening to you, you're not only showing leadership, you're a teacher. And I can say, in my experience, I'm not as a good teacher as I can lead, but that teaching component is huge, because if you can teach somebody and show them the roadmap, it makes a difference.
Yeah, the sky's the limit once you give people the knowledge, right? It's for them, right? And if you happen to be able to tag along like I have with some of these people, then my personal wealth grows too. But that wasn't my intent. My intent was to see them blossom. What the piece I got back was some financial income, right? But the issue is I just wanted to see them grow, right? I just wanted to see them do their thing. I mean, nobody really should go in the restaurant business expecting to make a bunch of money, right? That should not be the goal, right? Because it's such a rare thing. But for me, it was never about it. It was always about seeing them kind of make their goal, right? I want to be an owner. I want to have my own place, right? And I think a lot of people, if that's truly their goal, the financial, the gifts will come. But even if they break even, or even if they're just kind of working their job, paying themselves to have a job, if that's what they want to do, man, they're already winning, right? They're already way ahead of most people. They're not punching the clock or sitting in their cubicle saying, "Man, I hate my job." They're going to work saying, "I love my job."
Right.
Scott, where do you learn? Where do you get your insights from and keep your knowledge base growing? I know you've been part of different associations and
right. That's a great question, and it sounds probably, again, I'm going back. I think just moving. I moved so much growing up that if I listen to people, and I can be a bit of a chameleon, and I'm not that I want to copy who they are, because that's not what I'm saying. But if we hung out more, right? If I was with you, Monte, I really want to know what makes you tick, right? And I want to go do what you do. So, for instance, my partner at the Hourcraft Beer Tank, Steve Lynn, genius guy for getting things done, making sure everything's in order. He's probably should have been an engineer, right? He just knows how to make things work, right? And work really well. We went to Las Vegas for a convention, and he likes to race cars, right? So he took me out racing. I would never have done it, right? But I got to go race, cars, and had a freaking ball with that guy, right? And kind of jumped in his world for a little while. He got me out of my comfort zone. So I'm always looking for people to get me out of my comfort zone. And so but I want to do something, right? I don't want to be in a corner intimidated out of my comfort zone, right? But I want to go out and experience somebody else's, what makes them, give them real joy, right? And normally I'm like, hey, not for me. But I just went snorkeling. I did a 2.5-hour swim in Grand Cayman, and I'd never been to Grand Cayman. And I remember coming out of that water, and I think you name it, I saw it that day, right? I saw everything that you could think of in the water. And I just remember going, why didn't I not come here 20 years ago? Why did I? And now, I'm not sure I'm going to need to go back, but it was and again, I went because I was with divers. And I didn't dive. We just went snorkeling because I don't dive. Mm-hmm. But they took me out in a 2.5-hour swim, which I wasn't sure I could do. Just so you know, I'm like, I think I've swam 2 laps in my life, right? But you're in the ocean and you're floating around with fins. It works a lot easier. But the issue is, I'm a big experience guy, right? I'll say yes. If you call me up and say, I want to go to a concert, if you got tickets, I'm going, right? So, or vice versa. I'll make that same call. Hey, I got tickets, you want to come? I'm always looking for that kind of experiential stuff and kind of what makes people who they are. And again, some people will say, well, do you regret not doing what you always want to do? And I'm like, dude, I can do what I want to do anytime I want to do it, right? For the most part, but in general, I don't know what I don't know. So if I can go do something with somebody else that has, climbed Kilimanjaro and got me to somehow talk me, I haven't done it, but talks me into going, I'm going to come back a better person, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm always willing to kind of jump in. So it's a kind of weird way to answer your question.
I love that.
I just don't, I don't say no very often.
It's about experience.
It can get me in trouble, by the way.
Yeah.
But I don't say no very often. My wife sometimes says, I don't know how you do it. Aren't you worn out? And I'm like, because she's not the one, she won't join me. Half the time she's like, I'm not doing it. Have fun, go.
Right. We talk about that, Scott. We talk about getting out of your comfort zone.
Right.
And if you're going to go through a different level and a different ceiling, you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to go through a little pain, get out of the comfort zone, and then you find out that's where the real growth is.
Right.
And
I've sat in church, and I'm not a big church goer. My wife is, so she's she gets me to go. But I've sat in church, and I feel when they're talking about something, right? Maybe about society, and I've been where I'm like uncomfortable. And I remember saying at the church to my wife or somebody else, I said, I just learned something about myself, right? Because anytime I'm uncomfortable, I'm learning. When I'm really comfortable, I'm learning nothing. Right?
You're on idle.
I'm still doing things. I'm still working, right? I'm still making progress from my own knowledge, but I'm not growing personally. But there's never been a time. And if you think, and by the way, folks, your uncomfort doesn't have to be in church. If you get close to a cliff, right, you realize heights aren't your thing, right? So think about when you're, so the uncomfortableness can save your life, sometimes. But the issue is if you take it and then try to figure out why you're uncomfortable and then try to get comfortable with it, it's huge. I'm not afraid of many things, so that's pretty nice for me. But I'm afraid of sharks, and I was in the ocean, so So
how do you teach these things to your children? You spend a lot of time. You're getting uncomfortable. You're doing experiences. How have you taught some of this to your children, some of these same concepts?
I think we always probably regret what we don't teach our kids, right? So I would say I probably haven't done as good a job with my kids, although I always take them, right? Sometimes they don't go where I go, right? They won't jump in the ocean. They won't do the things I'm going to go do, even though I'm scared, right? Of sharks in the ocean. But I have always brought them along, right? So if there's something happening that I think they could probably just enjoy or see or feel or touch, and I put them to work. I mean, my daughter ran the Iowa Craft Beer Tent, all the cash, all the IDing when she was 15.
Oh, that's amazing.
11 days straight, 10 hours a day, no days off, right? And people were like, well, can you do that? I'm like, you know what I love about Iowa? We're a farm state. So guess what? I don't have to pay my kids. I don't have to give them time off, but I do. I pay them and they get, I feed them, when they're working. But the issue is they know how to work, right? And, they get to, so I do try to get them to experience things and I hopefully make it fun. Like all my kids work the fair and they all love it. And it's a ball buster of time. I mean, it is a
lot of work.
A lot of work, but they all like this is great, and I get to work with them, right? It's a rare thing in life when you get to spend that much time with your kids, and they get to see fun. You also kind of in your element. I mean, on day 3, my voice is shot, right? And then I try to doctor it back up, and and I can make it work. But they'll see me just run, my gas tank to empty, right? And then get up the next day and do it
all
again,
over
right?
again.
And that kind of stuff, and just see that there is no stop, right? There's no, hey, I can't call in sick today. The fair's not going to open up. So it's just kind of seeing those things. And then they see, and I think they do see, and I know I see it. I'll walk into the fair at 7 a.m. I mean, I'm tired. And the first customer walks up at 9 to get a beer, and I'm like, hey, what's up? And then all of a sudden I just people give me my energy, right? So I'm an extrovert, and I started to learn during COVID. Introverts are the opposite, right? They were blossoming during COVID. They love the fact that they didn't have to kind of expel all that energy, with people. And I started to put weight on, and got a little bit. I think one of the questions you were going to ask was, how. And I'm a different person from COVID, right? I become more introverted, even though I'm still a good extrovert. But I become also a little less happy, right? A little less happy. I shouldn't say happy. Happy-go-lucky, right? I learned that the world is not going to be always okay. And so I did tone myself down a little bit, because if I saw you and you looked a little sad, I'd be all like, what's going on? How you doing, man? Let's get you over that. Yeah. And I realized sometimes there's not an answer, right? There's not a moment. In that moment, there's not an answer. So I have pulled back on some of that kind of rhetoric, that I used to try to turn that frown upside down, and I'm like, man, maybe
that's self-awareness.
It is, right?
Self-awareness of how you're impacting others and where others are at.
Right.
Yeah, that's a huge awareness. Now, Scott, give us 3 things that you would say what is it in a restaurant business? Give us 3 things that you would think that makes that successful in that business.
I think concept, and when I say concept, people come to me all the time with a concept. So those aren't hard to find. What I always say, where do you want to do your restaurant? And then I say, so like we're in an older building here, right? So I might go and see where the building is, and then I'll find a concept that fits the neighborhood, the economy, the history, right? I mean, so there's tons of concepts, but the concept has to fit the place or the location or the community, right? Mm-hmm. And I see that missed all the time. I just want to open up a blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, do people want that in your community? Can they afford it in your community? What's have you done the economics? So I think that's so when I say concept, it's not the concept, it's the whole concept. Does everything fit together, right? Does the plan work in the community you want it? Does it work in Des Moines, Iowa? What works in Des Moines, Iowa probably does not work in Philadelphia. Probably does not work in LA, right? But so you have to develop your concept. 2, you gotta have passion, right? You gotta have passion, because it's such hard work in this business that if you don't, like I said at the fair, if you don't somehow get energy from the work, it'll eat you out and spit you out. And in this industry, it won't care about you, right? It'll just spit you out, right? So you gotta be the kind of person that just likes to kind of be energized. I was born probably ADD, ADHD, just too old to be diagnosed. But I realized I need lots of stimulation to stay kind of focused. If I, like during COVID, it was terrible because I didn't have stimulation, right? And so I was just kind of like lost, right? Mm-hmm. And then the third, and we talked about it too, you need to have some financial acumen. You need to know how to run a business. And if you don't know how to run a business, hire a good accountant, maybe, hire an accountant that has some business analytics to them, right? Because some accountants have some of that, they can help you with some of that. But and if you don't, there's so many short courses you can take. to learn basic accounting, basic finance, right? Basic marketing, basic, just any of those kind of, you're going to get them regardless. If you stay open long enough, you're going to learn them all through hard work and hard knocks. But if you can have some of that kind of front loaded for you, you're going to be pretty happy. And I think, I do say to most students, if you can pick a minor, I would pick economics. So if I think if you, that way wherever you move, like we happen to be in Des Moines, so I'll say to the students, what makes Des Moines tick, and they'll blurt out a few things. I'm like, no. I said we're an insurance capital, and banks follow insurance companies, so we're a banking and insurance mecca. Yep. And I said, now who is that? Well, I don't know. I said, well, they probably have a house in the suburbs and probably have a dog and a cat. They probably have their house is probably beige with white trim, and they probably mow the grass once a week. And they probably want if 1.5 dogs is the national average, they would like to have 1.5 dogs, but they can't, so they'll probably have 1 or 2. They're very, they want to be work 8 to 5. They want to go to church. So I said you got to know that these people are conservative in nature. So you can't come out and go crazy because they're not going to probably react to maybe the idea you have. So I said, but if you're in LA, completely different. They don't even go home till late because traffic's so bad, right? So I said it's just a different time, different places.
I think the 3 points you just gave can match every industry and every business. Yeah. If you want to build a business, you got to have the right concept. And I love what you said the next. It's about the fit of the market, fit of the need, fit of the geography, whatever it might be. But then you do have to have energy. If you don't have the energy, you can't push through it.
Yeah, it dies.
And passion.
And every business, you have to know your numbers. And I think it's getting harder and harder in every business that you've got to know your numbers to make the best decisions possible. I'm working with a client right now to help their team understand their numbers. And we went through and viewed it as, you spend $100, this is where every penny goes in $100. Or we generate $100, and at the end of the day, there's only $2 left.
Right.
If that.
And restaurants are under a nickel, right?
Yeah.
So, for every dollar you bring in, and I tell people all the time, why are things so expensive? I said, trust me, I'm trying to rub nickels right now. So, let us, trust me, we have this down to a science, and so, and you're right. And and other businesses don't have it differently. There's some great businesses out there that have huge margins, right? And those are the fortunate ones. But even those, once people realize those margins start to shrink, right? Because then all the suppliers start to raise their price. They realize these companies can afford, different things. So even the big companies, their margins slide. They normally don't grow.
I'd love to give you a chance to talk about the concept and fit. Give our audience, the Achievers, 30 seconds on each of your different restaurants and what the concepts are, just to give you a chance to plug those restaurants.
I'll take a little advertising.
That's all right.
So Court Avenue Brewing Company was the second brew pub in the state of Iowa. So all I did is I saw the opportunity that there was none here, right? And then I got to look downtown, and actually I found the Court Avenue, the Salary Building, was a good location for a brewery. And I didn't know a lot about beer, except I liked it. But I love food, love people. I wanted to be in the hospitality business, and I thought this was a good location. And I just think it was time. And now there's 126 breweries, in the state of Iowa. So we were right time. Right now the competition is fierce, and we at the time we had none. And again, those margins are big when you have none.
Right.
And that kind of stuff. So that was just great. But we did realize that Iowa, we just talked about the economy, aren't big drinkers. So I said, hey, if we're going to actually get people to drink craft beer, we better be a damn good restaurant, because they're going to judge us on our food and service before our beer. So the hope was get them down here for great service, great food, and please have a beer or two with dinner. And it worked. They did, right? And so we gave them good beer, but that was not what drove them. They still were food-oriented, atmosphere, environment-oriented folks, right? So that was kind of how we got them to drink beer. I knew we couldn't give them subpar food, not in the Midwest.
Yep.
It's not how they function. They want good, comfort, seasoned, flavorful food. And then we did Americano over in the Gateway, and that was an old car dealership. So that was originally Manbeck Motors was the last car dealership, and she married Reichard, But that was an old Chrysler car dealership, and so it had that American feel, that kind of motor feel, right? When we were building things, right, and creating things and that kind of stuff. So Americana, we just celebrated America, right? Kind of things that were Americana-esque. So if you go in there, you'll see fighter planes, you'll see some Chrysler pictures, you'll see some prints from Elvis and Warhol, and we left and we rebuilt the first floor in the exact image of what it was. So that tin ceiling is new, but matches the tin ceiling that was in the Manbeck or in the motor company. The floor is original. It's the only thing, but then all the walls are mahogany, and so we actually put mahogany trim up because that was what was in the. But we put it back. It wasn't there, right? If you look at a picture in there, you'll see it. And then we did American dishes: steak, seafood, chops, and just kind of did. And we did cocktail culture. So Court Avenue Brewing Company. Celebrate America. We're a cocktail culture over there, so big drinks. And then Gilroy's. Oh, sorry, the craft beer tent. We saw that there were so many breweries coming. And I said, do we want to compete with every brewery? Or do we want to have a place that brings in every brewery that's coming into town? So we did the Iowa Craft Beer Tent at the Iowa State Fair 13 years ago. And that thing we had no idea, guys. No idea would it be successful? Would Iowa even like it? I mean, we're a big bush drinking state. Was it going to work? Well, it's worked out fantastic. And now we do events all over the place, right? So that was just a great, happy kind of accident. I mean, we went in full bore, but we just didn't know what the result would be.
Right.
And then Gilroy's, the property came up for sale, and there's always people that want to sell properties or get them done. And so the guy that kind of approached me, I said, hey, I used to work at Jimmy's. That's not why I bought it, but I knew the property, knew the location, liked the parking. Downtown was becoming difficult for parking at that time. And so I said, hey, it might be nice to be just outside the city, off the expressway. I like the location. It's very convenient. It's got parking. It's kind of between the two cities, right? If you work downtown and you work in the suburbs, you can meet there for a lunch or a dinner or drinks, and you're kind of halfway for everybody. And so we did cold beer, patio, pizzas, appetizers, Moscow mules, margaritas, just kind of that, easy food, easy to order, easy drinks, kind of stuff. So we just kind of work, we look at the environment to see, and if you look at our neighborhood, we're a little white collar, blue collar, right? So we didn't want to be too expensive, right? We wanted to be kind of pretty, we want you to come twice a week, not once a month or once every quarter. We wanted you to kind of come there a couple times a week. So we kind of made it a little different feel.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it is.
Love that you shared that. And I love all three concepts, and I've been to all four. So that's.
I love it. I'm sure I'll see you at the fair or see you at one of the restaurants.
Absolutely. Really enjoyed the conversation. One of the last questions we always like to ask is, what do you want to be known for? And I think that's a big question. But you love service, you love giving, but what do you want to be known for?
And you kind of gave me that question, so I've been thinking about that, and I'm going to go back to kind of my upbringing again. There's a saying in restaurants, and I'm sure somebody said it, but people will not remember what they ate or what they drank, but they will certainly remember how they felt when they left or remember a restaurant or a bar, right? And so I guess for me, it's, and of course for a restaurant, we want you to feel good, right? We want that, whatever that feeling is, to be, that was a great feeling of when I was at Court Avenue Brewing Company or Americana. Mm-hmm. So I guess for me, I think it's pretty simple. If people leave me or I leave this world, and they think of me, hopefully they have good feelings. I mean, that's who I am. We sell feelings in this business, right?
Yeah.
You can't return that burger 2 days later. You can return that shirt anytime you want, right? So, I always say we have to leave them with a good feeling. So if I leave people with a good feeling, I think I win, right? And when I say win, it's not like, ooh, I win. It's just that I win. Personally, I win, right? That people will say, hey, Scott's a nice guy. He treated me right? I think that's it. Nothing too complicated. I don't have a very big ego. Very big passion, but not a very big ego.
Well, that's great. That's great. You're a macro guy. You look at things in a macro vision, and usually a guy with that type of a macro vision isn't as analytical as you are. I find people. So it's interesting. You are, I would call a fairly well balanced guy.
Yeah.
And that's great.
And that's led to a lot of your success.
Yeah, and my success at home too, right? I mean, I try to give everybody their share, right? Of time, and then when I'm there, I try to be, I can't give all my time to all the places, but when I'm with them, I want to give my time at the moment.
Oh, that's a gift,
right.
and that's probably one of your biggest gifts. I can tell you that, because most people in business, small businesses, they're busy working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Sometimes you do got to step back and look at what you're doing. But,
absolutely.
No, this has been great, Scott. Appreciate it that you came out today, and it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Always fun.
Paul, what were some of your takeaways that you gained from Scott today?
Well, my biggest is you're there to serve, and to have passion and to serve that person is huge, and that's what we're all about. I mean, if you're a business person, you're out to serve people and make them feel better, and hopefully make everything just a little bit better.
Absolutely. I loved how you start off. People are people no matter where you're at. Right. And you serve people with respect, you're going to get the respect in return. And I think that's something that the world needs to hear more often and needs to live by more often. So I really appreciate you sharing that tonight. I love what you said your first challenge was that every one of our achievers needs to know this is you have to have confidence in yourself. Right. You have to believe that you can do it. And you got to know that you can do it. And there's so many more things that every one of us can accomplish, but it starts with that self-belief and that awareness of yourself and what you're afraid of and what you're not afraid of and what you're willing to try and not try. So I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your insights with us today, and glad you could join us on What's Your Ceiling.
It's fun. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, well, you people out there, if you guys subscribe, click the thumbs up. And we're going to be at Berkshire Hathaway meeting May 5th and 6th. So come out and join us. You can also, I guess you can email us at wycmediapod@gmail.com. Look forward to seeing you there.
Very good. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.